another
and the
issue.
operational protocol on the Committee Against Torture was mentioned by many.
Ratifying
those unsigned.
Implementing the UN drift within Canada, that's huge. And then one I noticed you were a little confused by when they were talking about when people register their children.
Oh, yes, I
it's
realized.
Unstated and unrecognized paternity, so I was glad about that.
And
then there was a second one that was really clear on Bill C-3 saying we recognize there is still discrimination within the Indian Act, that, like Sharon MacGyver's issue.
Right. I
and so that was
good,
excellent that they made that specific point, because often everyone thinks it's been resolved with Bill C-3 and it hasn't.
And I think the other thing was the fact that the special rapporteurs and the recommendations that were made, that Canada's dismissing them.
Oh, right, and
those are very important.
The visits.
So there was a theme about Canada better respecting United Nations human rights procedures.
And special rapporteurs.
Sign on.
And the conventions and the treaties.
That's right, to let the rapporteurs in, to actually have an action plan of some sort for implementing the recommendations of the UPR. The other thing, there was one question about food security. And then also the treatment of Indigenous women and girls by the police in British Columbia. That's obviously the Human Rights Watch and probably the BCCDAW report. So really there's clear evidence.
High rates of incarceration.
And the
evidence
behavior of police in general, talking about police cruelty. I noticed a lot of that, which was really
racism.
Right. The racism, the criminalization of racism, that was a very prevalent one.
I did a fast calculation. I'll have to check it, but I think there were 82 states and 24 did not mention Indigenous people. So I calculated the percentage, and it's about 71% of all states mentioned Indigenous people.
In fact, it's more illuminating to say the few states that didn't mention Indigenous people and Indigenous women, since really the vast majority expressed really serious concern about the absence of effective government responses to the issue.
And the percentage is about the same as the last UPR.
Oh, is it interesting?
And it must be that high. We didn't do it yet on violence against women. I mean,
so
and you can see how the impact
c'est terminé maintenant? Oui. Okay, merci beaucoup.
Merci.
How the impact of the CSW and the focus on violence against women is really pushing up to this level.
And when they say all forms of violence, all means all. It doesn't mean
domestic violence, because how Canada would like to present it in the report is that it's family violence in Aboriginal men in Aboriginal communities. What we're talking about is racialized, sexualized violence.
What I did is only count the ones that mentioned Indigenous or Aboriginal, but there are many issues, like they mentioned elimination of all forms of poverty or elimination of all forms of violence. So even the ones that didn't mention Indigenous people, what they spoke about relates to Indigenous.
Exactly. And calling for a comprehensive plan, right? Calling for national plan for poverty and the right to food security. That was great as well.
And the one very important recommendation for Ireland, that there be an independent national inquiry into the missing and murdered women, which is something that the provinces have called for, Indigenous women's groups have called for, and clearly is well overdue.
We lobbied them on that, and we specifically asked them to put that in.
And so did she.
So did I.
That's great. So you guys did well. Thank you. That's awesome.
So you guys, I can't find my point.
The one thing that France did that I'm really pleased with is they talked about following the Committee Against Torture in all its forms and recommendations, which did say with non-state torture, which is what we're talking about. So there's a little ripple there of the non-state torture coming through.
Well, even with when they say the promotion of education for all human rights, you can't say that the human right not to be subjected to torture only applies to some people and not others. You can't just base that on who the perpetrator is. The Universal Declaration did not say no one shall be subjected to torture only if it's state actors. That's not how that was ever intended to be. So.
And I noticed there was nothing about, like I'm thinking of the CSW and the issues that women brought forward. There was nothing about gender around lesbian or homosexual lesbian or gay women, and also the women that are forced into prostitution. There was no mention of that either. Those were two issues that were left out of the outcome document of CFUW. So you can see how they're left out of that document, how they get left out of this process too. You know, it's the ripple effect of more that we have to push for now. Really, it's good though. It's all good.
But it shows you if Canada has things in their report that are dishonest, like putting in that they consulted with over 200 organizations, including Aboriginal organizations. They got congratulated for this
Yes, they did. I saw that. Yes.
And yet people have no idea how many Aboriginal organizations are even there.